Bull camper in the right place at the right time.
Joe Rose, touchdown Miami!
Here we are again, Joe. Out to Pasture, moving along. I think we got a pretty good show today. Look, this is Heart Month, Heart Awareness Month.
Yeah.
Around the country,
Right.
Everybody's doing it. You and I have had heart issues, so we're going to talk about that.
Apparently, everybody in our age group.
Everybody, yeah.
Having
I mean, I'm 70 years old. You're kind of creeping,
67. I'm
creeping up,
feeling great.
up. And you know what? When I remember when I met people that were 70 years old, I thought, man, they're going to be dead, or I thought it was amazing that they were alive that way. I feel great. You feel good.
I do.
And so
I have noticed we take better care of ourselves than we used to.
Yeah.
By the way, not that I'm perfect.
Well, sometimes I have to pull away from you guys, and I kind of.
Yeah, I noticed. By the way, on the road, he does Saturday sprints and Saturday nights. He's up in the hotel room. I'm barely out of the taxi, man, to get into the hotel.
So I get into the hotel, go to bed, and Joe's talking to a pole for about 20 minutes.
Oh, that's wrong. I do talk to everybody, but not the pole.
No. Hey, so we're gonna have one of the great guys. We played with so many good guys, and this guy was here when I got here, and he was there when I left. Don
He really
Strock.
was.
Don Strock. I mean,
too.
what a in character, great football player out of Virginia Tech, could throw the ball like anybody.
If there was NIL today, Stroker would have made a lot of money. He's one of the great quarterbacks. But I got to tell you something. His leadership, I can speak for myself. Don was one of the guys when I got there for a quarterback, really helped me how to do things, do it the right way. Hey, don't get too upset. Shoes gets on everybody.
Yeah.
Stroke was just a big part of the leadership team on the offensive side of the ball for me.
He was, you remember when Ryan Fitzpatrick was here?
Yeah.
And we used to talk about it. It was like the Pied Piper.
Right.
He'd come out and there'd be 5 or 6 guys following him.
Right.
Strock was the same kind of way, same personality. Everyone wanted to hear what he had to say. Funny guy, talked about anything you wanted to. And so we spent a lot of time with him. And whether it was out to dinner on the road, doing different things, everybody had a lot of respect for Don Strock.
The whole time. First of all, as a quarterback, he was fantastic with all the guys and cleaning up messes as far as winning games and everything. And I got to tell you, Dan Marino gives Don Strock a lot of credit for his success, how to read coverages, how to be a pro, right thing to do, even first coming in and taking off as a star. Stroke was right there for him to make sure he did things the right way.
Talk about right there. He was as close to me and you with Don Shula on the sidelines for every game. And the show that Shoes would put on those games, he could have 1,000 stories to tell.
He heard it all. Those guys would help. One guy would call the play, the other would help him with the play. It was incredible.
So he's had some heart issues like us, and so since it's National Heart Awareness Month, we're bringing him on to talk about football and talk about how he's doing these days. All right, Joe, here he is, the great Don Strock.
You know how valuable he would be in today's game. Do you have any idea?
He would get just a little less money than Marino. You put him and Marino in there, they'd be some very wealthy guys right now. Hey, Don, how you doing, man?
I'm doing great. After the Super Bowl, I guess everybody now is looking for offensive and defensive linemen.
Right.
Yeah.
But they didn't like them. They didn't care about them before, but they care about them now. I can't promise you that.
I think the Dolphins are looking for another defensive coordinator because Vic Fangio, they lost Vic Fangio, and I guess it didn't bother them losing him, but you see what happens there, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, it was the perfect match, the defense that he likes to run and the personnel they have. Listen, when you can put heat on a guy like Mahomes, of all people, who's an athlete playing quarterback, by rushing 4 only, no blitzes, no safeties, no nothing.
Yeah.
We get 6 sacks. That is a feat in itself, without a doubt.
Yeah, that's unbelievable. Don, there's so many great things to talk to you about going back, and we talk about the backup quarterback, obviously, because the Miami Dolphins this year got caught in a position they didn't have one ready to go. You've been in that role, and it's a special role. It's more valuable than ever now with protecting quarterbacks and the shortage of quarterbacks. How'd you take that role? You had it with Hall of Fame quarterbacks, two of them, in Dan Marino and Bob Greasy. Talk about the mindset to get ready for that position. You could be called on any time.
Well, the mindset of the third guy you didn't mention was a lot tougher than the first two. Talking about the Woodstock era, was a lot different, obviously. You prepare a game, and I remember in my first couple of years, I bought like this 60 millimeter camera that I took home with me, was watching film. And then whenever the film broke, I'd just leave it broke and put a piece of tape on it and make Carl Tasser fix it when I got back. So it was, I was prepared, and I knew I was always, you guys have known me for a long time. I was prepared to go in and try to win a game. I was prepared to go in and try to build a lead or run the clock out. Okay. And they're all different facets of the game and the way you prepare. But watching the game from the sideline, seeing what's working, what's not working, what I know I can do, what I know I can't do, is obviously more important than anything as far as the game plan is concerned.
Hey, we were talking before you came on, Joe, Don, that you may be the one guy through your career spent more one-on-one or close time with Don Shula throughout your career, in meetings and game planning and standing on the sideline. I mean, you were as close to him, looking back, as anybody I can remember.
Well, I mean, for a trivia question, wherever you guys are at a bar having a beer, I was 15 years with Don Shula, the longest tenured single player that he ever coached. I mean, that's the Greaseys, the Unitas's, Tom Matty, you name them all. They're 15 years, and that's quarterback meetings every Tuesday for 3 and 4 hours. You guys would go home at 2:00. We'd be there till 6. Going over game plans. He'd be calling you all names, bad names and stuff. Yeah. But I couldn't tell you what they were until the next day. Okay, so I was lucky enough, and I want people to realize this. I was sitting in my first 3 or 4 years. To my left was Bob Greasy. To my right was Earl Morrill. Yeah. Wow. So I'm going like, well, how would you attack this, Earl? Bob was going, well, we got to make sure we know where this guy is. Why? They tell me, and they were very good at telling me stuff. And that's what I developed when I finally got with Dan. And such a talent that he was, but college game is a lot different than the pro game. As everybody finds out, how many quarterbacks were taken in the first round in the last 20 years, it didn't pan out. Okay, because the college game is so much different than the pro game.
Let's get to the good stuff. Game day with Don Shula. Game day with Don Shula. Different level for those sideline officials to the players. What was it like?
There was a guy by the name of, he actually went to college with Earl Morrill. His name was Dean Look. He was a side judge. And he'd always come to talk to me. He goes, how's the head man feeling today? I go, he's feeling as ornery as he's ever felt. And he goes, oh, no, don't tell me that. Okay. I said, well, what side are you starting the game on? He goes, I got the other side to start with. I hope you guys are leading at halftime, or I'm not coming over to the other side. Okay. So he would, and he would just, I can't begin to tell. You guys saw it in action, so what he would say to some of these guys, and plus he was on the competition committee. Right. So he's telling us guys, I got your job right in my hand right here, okay? The guys were like, what? I mean, like, make a call. Like, I'm going to talk to you. You ever see that one? When you go like, come here. I want to talk to you. I said, don't come over here, whatever you do. Come over here.
They knew what was coming, man. He didn't care.
Absolutely.
Hey, I got to ask you the other one. You mentioned the Woodstock, because when it was Woodstock, it was wood for a very short time, and the Strock part had to be ready to go. and yet we won a lot of games, and you cleaned up a lot of mess along with the great Killer B defense. But going through that, Stroker, what was that like?
That was much different than the other situations. You had to be prepared. David was an athlete playing quarterback, an athlete. Okay. We had runs in, fake bootleg runs and stuff. So you're putting yourself at harm, from the first play of the game. And he took a lot of hits he didn't have to. He held the ball too long, and he set some guys up for the kill too, receivers. And I'll never forget Nat Moore telling him, "Don't ever throw me the ball in the middle of the field like that again." But you prepared from play one until the last play. You didn't know. I mean, Shoes might make a decision. Okay, it's not working. Get in there.
Yeah.
That's how it wasn't like warm up or whatever. It was just like, you're gone. Okay. It wasn't, there was no strategy to it or whatever. Hats off to David. He came into a difficult situation. Remember, this is a guy to replace Bob Greasy.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. I mean, come on now. Okay. That was not an easy, and then Bob Greasy was his coach in his first year. And if you know Bob Greasy, the way he prepared for a football game and the way that David prepared for a football game was
like oil and water.
There was no resemblance to.
Hey, Don, you one thing that you'll always be remembered for. Joe and I were talking before we came in here. The game against the San Diego Chargers, double overtime, was called the game of the game of the '80s, the decade of the '80s. We're down in the first half big, and all of a sudden you get the hook and lateral. Take us through that. And there's always been this. There's always been the question. Okay, who gets credit for calling the play?
Okay, I'll give you the facts here. Okay, as I remember, there was less than 10 seconds left in the half. We were like at the 50 or behind a little bit, whatever. So field goal, we didn't have enough. We had no timeouts. There was no time to throw a quick out because they were playing a cover two look that you'd have to throw it in the middle of the field and catch the ball. So I went to the sideline and I explained that to Coach Shula. I said, we're not going to be able to throw a sideline pattern because they're going to take the sideline away. You throw it in the middle of the field, the game, the half's over. And you guys remember every Tuesday while we were seeing if everybody still had all their limbs working properly, we would go through all our special plays, okay, audibles and stuff, and run reverses, whatever. So everybody knows, okay, this is the play. If we need it, we'll use it, okay? And we're on the sideline, and it was a two-part conviction here. And Coach Shula says, what do you think about 87? What do you think about circle curl lateral? I said, hey, it's worth a shot, okay? I said, but if we're going to do it, we got to do it against this guy over here because he's a much more aggressive corner, okay? And that's what we need. We need somebody to come up and try to make the tackle. And I said, okay, if we're going to do it, let's do 87 circle curl lateral. And that's what we called it. And somehow it worked perfectly because Durrell, knowing him, if he'd have caught it standing up, he'd have tried to run himself, okay? Yeah. But he caught it, kind of going down a little lower. And somehow Tony got through the line of scrimmage clean, okay, and came under and took the pitch, which doesn't happen very often, as you guys know. You all played a long time. And it worked. Now, the very first thing I looked for was a flag, okay? Yeah. Because, the referee's going, I don't believe what just happened. It's got to be illegal, okay? So right. Go throw a flag, whatever. So I'm looking for a flag. Then I see Tony running across with the ball up. The guy almost catches him.
Yeah.
So anyway, I do remember one thing, and I know you guys do too. Okay, I've been in a lot of games in a lot of stadiums where it was loud, okay? But at halftime, if you remember, you couldn't hear each other speak in the locker room at halftime.
Yeah.
And that's the first halftime that I remember. Shula didn't say anything. Okay. Yeah. He just goes, we get the ball in the second half. Let's go. That's it. That's it. Okay. Yeah. No, D, let's do this. No. He said, I didn't know what to say. I remember talking to him in a meeting afterwards. He goes, there was nothing to say. I didn't know what to say, and as you know how it turned out, we both teams had opportunities with field goals to win, and then Michigan finally made it, and they got to go freeze their ass off up in Cincinnati.
Yeah.
Hey, let's change gears a little bit. It's it's National Heart Awareness Month, and Don, we know you've been through some stuff with your heart, and joining us now is Jonathan Fialkow, MD, Chief of Cardiology at Miami Cardiac and Vascular Institute, part of Baptist Hospital, and I think he's part of the team that kind of helped you. So let's bring in the doc with us, Dr. Fialkow. First of all, Don, why don't you kind of go through what your situation was?
Well, I can tell you. I will tell you, Doctor. I'm telling you that the good doctor knows all these people. Okay, I can tell you that right now. I see a specialist. I've seen since 1999. I've seen Dr. Theodore Feldman. Okay, and he's been my cardiologist, who has got me into the network at Baptist. I had a procedure done. I had an aortic valve replaced by Dr. Joseph Lamelas, who was at Baptist at one time. And I know Doctor knows the whole story there. He went to Mount Sinai. Then he took over for DeBakey, who had the first heart transplant in Houston. And it didn't work out the way that he wanted it there. And he came back, and now he's at Health, if I'm not mistaken. And Dr. Juan Villa-Gonzalez also is a guy that I see for my arteries. He's the one that did the testing to make sure that I was okay to have the non-invasive. It's called the Miami method that Dr. Lamelas performed on me. And I know the doctor is well aware with all these things. I'll give you a little rundown. 2016 was a long year for me. In March, I had my right hip replaced. In August of 2016, I had the aortic valve replaced. And then in December of 2016, I had an abdominal aortic aneurysm, okay,
Wow.
Which is like a bubble in your aorta. But Dr. Barry Katzen, okay, who I know the doctor knows, at that time he was doing a special surgery type thing where they just put stents on either side,
Yep.
and it helped to shrink it and hold it in place, and it shrunk it like in half, okay? So it's really worked as far as I'm concerned. There's echocardiograms, that I do yearly. And then probably 2.5 years ago or so, believe it or not, I was getting an echocardiogram, and the guy says, "Does Dr. Feldman know you have AFib?" And I said, "I don't know. He never mentioned it to me." So I went through a procedure called a cardioversion, okay, which it's like maybe you're like gone for 3 seconds and they shock your heart.
Yeah.
And it put it back in rhythm. It was back in rhythm for a couple months, and then he said it may not stay and whatever. So now we're discussing whether an ablation is something that needs to be done, where they go up through your groin and cauterize the leak. And but we every follow up every 6 months. We talk about anything that we need to do as far as procedures are concerned, or whatever. Nowadays, the doctor will agree with me here. It's a lot easier to make a dinner reservation than it is a doctor's appointment. I mean, because, and I think he'll agree with me also in situations. I live a mile away from the Cleveland Clinic, and I have some great doctors there. The Cleveland Clinic has grown leaps and bounds, probably bigger and faster than it needed to, and makes it much more difficult to get the appointments you used to get. And Baptist has done the same thing. I'll be quite honest with you. They're a huge, huge, huge operation now, and but both of them are tremendous. Both of them are tremendous hospitals.
Can you talk a little bit, Doc, about kind of what he's gone through and how is that typical, atypical? and what our audience can do to maybe understand if they're going through something that they don't know what's going on, the telltale signs, and just whatever you can throw out there.
Doctor, let me just mention one thing, okay? When I went to Virginia Tech, okay, the doctor there discovered that I had a heart murmur, okay? And my mother had one and my father had one too, okay? And there was a possibility, they're talking about not even passing me for the physical at that time. This was 1968.
Wow.
So when I saw Dr. Feldman in 1999 or 2000, he said, and this will lead into what the doctor's going to tell you, I'm sure. He told me that eventually you're going to have some type of replacement because it'll wear it out, okay? So I said, okay, you just tell me when. So he told me when, like 14 years later, and that's when I had the procedure by Dr. Lamelas. I'm sorry, doctor.
No apologies necessary. Your experience is well said and well articulated. But in answer to your question, guys, and to elaborate on Don's story, I can look at it two ways. So let me start by saying, ultimately, we want to practice what's been termed preventive care, right? And that's a term that we don't always think what it means. And I always say to people, what do you want to prevent? Well, I want to prevent a heart attack. Well, you want to prevent death. That's the goal. Mm-hmm. So I could say that Don's had good preventive care because he's still alive and he's still functioning. So whatever's going on, by addressing it and fixing it or preventing it from getting life-threatening and bad, was successful. When we look at the cardiovascular system, I try to break it down to four components. There's the heart muscle, which we only have one, and we want to preserve. Most of the things we do, keep the arteries open, help from valve problems, is to preserve our heart muscle. Because when that starts weakening and enlarging, we can't really bring it back, and it does lead to pretty crummy lifestyles and potential death. There are electrical problems like atrial fibrillation. There are valve problems like valves that can become very tight over many years and they don't open well. So the heart has a higher stress to pop those valves open. Or they can leak where they don't close well. So the heart is doing a lot of work that's not doing anything. It's just moving blood back and forth instead of moving blood forward. And then the fourth thing are vascular problems with the arteries and the blood flow. Now, fortunately, Don hasn't had coronary artery problems, but when you have that aortic problem, that's a vascular problem. The body doesn't choose, we'll have it affect our heart over our arteries and our aorta. It can happen anywhere. So Don hit the trifecta with an arrhythmia, atrial fibrillation, a valve problem in the aorta being followed for other valves, and a vascular problem, which you're on good preventive therapies for. And ultimately, when it comes to seeing doctors, the heart murmur maybe as an example, if we see evidence of things that might cause problems in the future, we want to identify them and track them and fix them when appropriate so you don't get death, you don't get heart failure. So it goes back towards general checkups. Always, of course, listen to your body. You're a little more short of breath. Your ankles are swelling up a little bit. You're getting tightness in your chest. Get it checked out. But ultimately, when people have medical problems, sometimes they feel fine and we find it and then we can address it before it causes permanent damage. So in Don's case, seeing a good cardiologist, one of my colleagues, and I lead and run the group, so I know Dr. Villas Gonzalez. I recruited him and hired him as well, the arrhythmia guy. Taking advantage of the latest technologies as to what's going on, when should we do something. It's not always related to symptoms. Sometimes we want to fix things before it affects the heart permanently. Getting the good care, getting the good follow-up care, following a good lifestyle. Again, the preventive therapy worked because obviously you're still alive, no joke, and you're doing well. So again, preventive therapy is what it's about, but the only way you can't wait for symptoms. You want to have a doctor that examines you and talks to you and determines, is there any evidence of anything going on now that might cause a problem in the future that's preventable. I'll also say we can't prevent everything. I always tell my patients, I can't prevent a meteor from crashing into your bedroom tonight, So to some degree, we have to balance the lifestyle, the things we want to stay on top of, and also recognize, we do follow statistics. So even in the best hands, things can go wrong. And I got to tell you, I got patients that are disasters that ignore every recommendation, and they're happy and they're golfing in their 80s. So, we got to look at probabilities and not just absolutes.
Doc, AFib. I know I recently had one. Bo had one just before me. You seeing more and more of it as guys get in their 60s?
So atrial fibrillation is an electrical abnormality. The heart has its own electrical system, and that system can go awry. What happens with atrial fibrillation is the electrical impulse starts in the upper chamber of the heart, moves through the upper chamber, then there's a pause as it goes through a little node, a little group of fibers before the impulse goes to the lower chamber. Think of an hourglass where all the electrical signals go through this node and then down to the main pumping chamber. The reason we have that node is to slow the transaction, because the electrical system is so fast that if everything was squeezing at once, the heart wouldn't have time to fill with blood. So the upper chamber squeezes, then the lower chamber squeezes. Atrial fibrillation occurs when the upper chamber loses its synchronization. So one cell leading to another cell, leading to another cell, think of a bellows that makes the heart squeeze. It starts firing all over the place. There are two consequences. One is often it causes a very fast heart rate. The normal governors on the heart rate are lost, and people feel palpitations, short of breath, agitated, sometimes chest pain, and we work to slow the heart rate. The other component, which is more common as we get older, there's a little pocket off the side of the heart, and when you have fibrillation, that pocket doesn't squeeze, and blood can coagulate and travel and lead to a stroke. So it's really the stroke we're concerned with. Yeah. Now, it's related to being older. It's related to the American lifestyle, which leads to higher weight. It's related to other things like sleep apnea, which is a condition when you're sleeping and you're not getting oxygen. So those are more common as we get older. We're an aging population. We're a more overweight, less healthy population. So the incidence of atrial fibrillation is exploding, and it's going to continue to explode because it follows those demographics. So ultimately, it'd be good to prevent it, stay healthy, stay fit, make sure your sleep patterns are good. There are other things that can cause it as well, certain valve problems and thyroid problems, but these are the main things. But yeah, guys, we're looking at expanding our access for people with AFib so they don't have strokes. The procedure Don mentioned is very safe in the right hands. Probably will be doing more of them when we're planning for that, and that's just a function of our older population and our less healthy population.
Doc, real quickly, my new vitamin is my blood thinner. Thank you. Twice a day. I appreciate it.
Vitamin E or vitamin X, depending on which one you're taking.
It seems like earlier when I was younger, a lot of people were dying from heart attacks. I mean, it was one and done, and you're here today, gone tomorrow, but it seems like that's kind of abating a little bit.
That's correct.
And my question kind of leads into, like, if you have multiple situations, AFib, and then you go to something else, and then you got a valve, and then does that stress the heart, or are you able to just mitigate that and not make all the things create one big incident?
So you're discussing structural things with the heart, like a valve that might leak, and the arrhythmia and coronary disease, and there's no question they're additive when it comes to risk. But I'll go back one further and say, if you smoke and you have high blood pressure and your lipids and cholesterol out of control and your sugars, those are additive as well. So we always want to look at things as multiple factors. It's not, I have this is going to happen. Going back to the other premise, when people have a heart attack, it's usually a rip in an artery, a diseased artery that leads to a blood clot. So it's relatively sudden. And the course used to be you took hours to get to the hospital. We put you on medications to hope calm your heart down, and you were left with a lot of damage to your heart muscle, which had subsequent life affected. Or you developed an electrical abnormality, which caused an arrhythmia, and you dropped dead. That's called a sudden death, and that still happens. And quite frankly, from about 1980 to about 2012, we as a country did a good job, and the number of deaths from heart attacks actually diminished. Also, we developed rapid responses. We have what are called STEMI. It's a basically team of doctors available 15 minutes from the hospital. They don't drink, so anyone coming with a heart attack, they're right there. They open the artery, they preserve it. So we have a whole lot of functions. The fire rescues can know to give blood thinners right at when they pick people up. So a lot of things have been put in place, and our death rates dropped, and then they kind of plateaued, and now they're going up again. Yeah. And one of the reasons is there's really not been a blockbuster treatment for cardiac prevention or heart attacks since then. So you think they plateau, but then we're heavier and less healthy. So as the people at risk for heart attacks goes up, we haven't really dealt with anything really major since then. The rates are unfortunately going up again, which goes back, guys, to prevention. Know if you're at risk, control the things that might cause a heart attack so you don't have it in the first place, and not wait for that heart attack to occur, which remains life-threatening. But you're right, guys. The numbers of people having heart attacks as a percent of the population have gone down with statins and blood pressure control and the various other procedures that have been revolutionary over the last 30, 40 years.
Doc, thanks, man. We want to appreciate having you on here. We appreciate you having you on here. And, Joe, we always talk about it. Baptist Health been taking good care of us, and what you guys have built with that whole organization for South Florida and moving along, getting more places for people to go. it's been a godsend for us. And I want to appreciate you and all the doctors that have been able to take care of us.
Thanks, Doc.
And I appreciate that, guys. If I can make one last comment, Don's comments regarding access to medical care is true. With COVID, we have a lot of older doctors just retired. We're not minting them, so we're putting a lot of processes in place to make sure people's concerns are handled immediately, and they have that access. Doesn't happen overnight, but we're quite optimistic that we'll be able to meet the needs of the community.
And doctor, one thing also is people are living longer.
Yeah, there's more. We have more people coming to South Florida, more people with chronic disease.
The heart situations play big into that. My mother, God bless her, is 95 years old. She has a pacemaker.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. My
And
mom's
she says,
98.
I put it next to my heart, and they tell me if I'm still here. I said, well, I'm talking to you, but okay.
Yeah, it's true. Appreciate it, guys.
All right, Doc.
Thanks, Doc.
Thanks. Appreciate it. Hey, Don. So Don, you feeling good, right? You're.
Yeah, I mean, you still feel the bumps and bruises, and you get up and see if the oil can still works, if you can move your arm, your feet, whatever. But I'm on top of it. I have a very good blood pressure machine here. I take my blood pressure every morning.
Yeah.
As soon as I wake up, before I take any medication or whatever, and when I go to see my doctor, which is Dr. Feldman, I know that the good doctor here is well aware of who he is. I do a week. The week before I see him, I do the morning and evening around 5:30. To see what the difference is between when you're active during the day and what you are, at night. And they've been, knock on wood, they've been very good for the last 4, 5, 6 years. So he likes that. He likes to see what's going on as far as the blood pressure is concerned. And these guys have been around. As far as the Dr. Katzen, the gentleman I was talking about, who did the stents for me, and he put stents in the legs of Dick Cheney when he was vice president of the United States of America. So I figured if he got federal clearance to do Dick Cheney, he was okay to do me.
Right.
So it was enlightening how he told me what he was going to do and how he was going to do it. He did it, and I said, well, I have to go to Knoxville, Tennessee. I got to drive up there with my wife. He goes, oh, you can leave this weekend. I'm going like, what? Usually, if you know anything about aneurysm, they split you open, and they open it, and you clean it out and sew it back up. And whatever that, he put stents on either side, and it shrunk it back to normal.
Hey, Don, I'm looking at that picture over your shoulder with you and number 13 there. You were, you were able to experience a young Dan Marino coming in, a bushy haired, and you're in that baseball cap coming in. And boy, it didn't take long for him to make an impact on everybody on that football team.
Well, it was interesting that you bring that up, because one thing sticks out in my mind, and this was a little bit of a setup, okay, because you guys were there too, because you know what I'm talking about. We went down, we played the New Orleans Saints in New Orleans, okay, and David Woodley was the starting quarterback. I had just come back. I was holding out for the 20th time in a row or something. And
was your 20th one-year contract?
Yeah, right, exactly. When the hell are you coming in here? Okay, anyway, so I'm on the sideline, and Shula, Coach Shula, God bless him, is letting David Woodley call his own plays. Okay, I said, wait a minute here now. This has got to be a setup. Okay, this has got to be a setup somewhere along the line, because Dan has not started a game yet. Remember that now, okay? So for some reason, Woodley is like a first down. He calls that short yardage play. Joe, you used to score 119 arrow Q,
right.
Cross. I'm like, what the hell is going on here? Okay. And she goes, okay, that's it. Dan, get ready. You're going in. I'm going like, whoa. There you go. Here. And that was it. So after the game's over, we're in the locker room. And Dan is next to me, obviously, in the locker room. And he goes, what do you think? I think we've just seen the changing of the guard. Okay. So these reporters are going to come flocking in here in about 5 minutes. And they're going to ask you every question you don't want to hear, okay? So go in, take a shower, cool down, get your thoughts collected, and when you come back out, you can talk to them, okay? Don't do it before then, okay? Because you knew it, I knew it. I mean, it was the changing of the guard, okay? And the way he did it was most people didn't realize it, but I was right there. Okay, they were like, this is it. I mean, this is where the change is being made. Now, I don't know if he waited for me to get back, okay, because I was only back that one game, okay? That was the first game I was back, okay? And I'm standing next to him on the side. Now, you know, he gave me the old, like he told me like 10 different times, you know, well, I filed with the NFL. You got a 2-week waiver before we're going to activate.
Right.
And that was Monday. And then Tuesday he goes, okay, you're activated. You know, so you go,
that was quick.
Whatever. Okay. You know, but those are the kind of things you remember, you know, in the games. And I can remember you, Bo, because I'm going to give you a big plug here. Okay. You were the next guy. He was the 53 man, and Bill Arnsparger's 53 defense. You know that. Okay. Yeah. A lot of people don't realize that, okay? But Mo Scary fought. So you made Pro Bowl at Sam linebacker, okay? Nobody's going to block you. I mean, these backs are big enough to block
no
you,
one.
Whatever, okay? Yeah. And Mo Scary, he wanted you to be an end rusher so bad. He sold his soul. God bless him. You know, I mean, he's the best pass rusher I got. He says, oh my God, do I want him rushing against a tackle who's trained to try to block, or against a back who doesn't want to block, okay? And they made the change. And I thought for years you would have been a Pro Bowl linebacker,
no question.
Playing strong side linebacker with no question on my mind. I always thought that was one of the worst moves the Dolphins made as far as personnel was concerned.
It worked out pretty well. Got to play in a couple Super Bowls and
yeah. I'm not saying
games,
you're a hell of a defensive end too, but I'm just thinking about the crown jewel here. What they took you for.
You know what's funny about that, Don, is when I came in, Bob Matheson was the 53 guy. That was named after. He was number 53. Arnsparger, you know, made the defense. It was named after Bob Matheson, and I remember coming to training camp, and Coach Shula said, "You stand right behind number 53."
Yeah.
And so I'm right all the drills. I'm right behind him. And I got to tell you what, and Bob knew Bob knew what was going on. Yeah. Bob was a smart guy. He knew what was going on. He'd been there for a long time. And that guy spent so much time helping me, telling me what I'm doing wrong, helping me. And he knew damn well I was there to take his job. Yeah. And I think that's just a little glimpse of those 72, 73, those guys, that team it was so important for them to win. They're willing to help somebody trying to take their job to win games. And I never forgot that about him. He became a very wonderful friend of mine for a long, long time.
Well, I was in business with Bob, but I'll tell you a funny story too. Was I was a rookie, and they were getting close to the last. I'll tell you 2 stories. One and Manny Fernandez and Zonk and Kick and all those guys said, "Come on, Rook, let's go out and have a drink." You know, I said, "Oh, all right, you know, whatever." So, and you know, drive your own car. You know, when a guy follow us. You know, they went to this little honky tonk down in Carroll City. Okay, and they're ordering tequilas and whatever and that kind of stuff. So I get up and I go to the bathroom. When I come out, nobody's there. They're all gone. I'm in Carroll City. I don't know how to get back to camp. Okay. I'm driving around Carroll City like until 2:00 in the morning, and I come in, and Shoes knows because they've told him. These guys have told him, we're going to take the Rook out tonight. Okay. So Shoes is going he gives me, where the hell were you? I went, And then the final cut down, okay, you know, I said, okay, you know, they may not keep 3 quarterbacks. They got Earl, they got Bob, you know, whatever. And so my locker was right inside. I was right next to Paul Warfield, okay. Yeah. And so I walk in, and Paul's sitting there at his locker, and I forget, Mandish was down next to him, whatever, and my locker was empty, okay. I'm going, oh shit, you know.
That's cruel.
So I'm thinking, I sit down in my chair, okay. I'm going to gather my thoughts, and then I'm going to get up. And I get up, and I'm walking through the door to go back to see Shoes, you know, whatever. And Jim Kick and Merck and them right over and go, whoa, hang on. Okay, your stuff's in that bin right there. Okay? They're taking all my stuff and threw it in where you put your towels, you know, and covered it up. And I was like, Okay, I mean, the relief was unbelievable. You know what I mean? They're all laughing at me. I felt like an idiot, but that group, I can tell you, is so much different than the groups today. We don't have enough time to talk about that. Okay.
Yeah.
And I know you guys both still work with the Dolphins, and you have to be careful about what you say in all 9 yards, but I don't. Okay. So I think that there's got to be some changes made. The way the coaching staff treats the players and the way the players treat the coaching staff.
Yeah.
If you follow what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I mean, there's got to be somebody's the big kahuna and the rest of them are the little kahunas, you know? I mean, something's got to be done. Okay. If one of your best players says he's a competitor, well, competitors don't quit.
Yeah.
Okay. You know, in the fourth quarter on the rest of their teammates.
Yeah.
And they actually had a mic on Waddle saying, well, he's not coming out or what, you know?
Yeah.
I mean,
Right.
I mean, come on now. I mean, it's
no.
This is a crossroads here right now.
It's a different age. It's a different game, you know, and in personalities. Look, Coach Shula didn't care who you were, what you were.
No.
Whatever your personality, he didn't want to know about anything.
Right.
But can you play? I remember Zoc telling me one time. He says, one time he said he jumped off sides or did something. He looked over to Shula's and Shula's like ran. He goes, I wanted to go to the other sideline.
Yeah.
I didn't even want to come back to ours, you know. And you talk to people about that now, and they're going, well, geez, that's pretty. I go, well, look, I don't know. It was my whole career. My whole career was like that.
Can you imagine? Do you think that Coach McDaniels would point out in a meeting, you know, the defensive backs, you can't cover, you know,
Yeah.
When you assholes going to catch a ball, when you're going to do, you know, I mean, he confronted people in the meeting in front of his teammates.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And there was no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Okay.
Nothing more humiliating than getting called out in front of the whole team of great players. The worst.
Listen, the press can say whatever they want in the newspaper, and a million people can say what they want to think. But when the head man reams you out in front of your teammates, okay, and then you go, okay, let's go have lunch. You go, man, did he ream you out today?
you know what? When you say, it's funny you say that because when this stuff happened, and even like when when they had a press conference and Mike's talking about, well, I try to find him, but that doesn't work. I don't know what to do. And I said, I know what to do. You call the guy out in the middle of a meeting. Coach Shula say, oh, you're late today? What, all these other 53 guys don't mean anything? They can be here. They can be on time. Oh, but you're special. And then every time you do something wrong, that little red light would come up there. Oh, look, if you were here on time. Right. You call that to me, you get called out in a meeting like that, and it just, boy, I tell you, put your head between your legs.
I'm going to let you go with this right here, okay? Shula used to have this thing where, you know, everybody's going to show up and go to that banquet, you know, he had, whatever it was, you know. And Jake Scott, I mean, who was a hell of a player, a hell of a football player, okay? And he was sitting in the corner, okay? She was go, okay, everybody be there by 6:30, and Jake goes, I'm not, okay? It's the only voice in the meeting. And we're going, what? And she turns to him and goes, everybody's going to be, you know, like that look, everybody's going to be, and Jake goes, I'm not, okay? Okay? I was going like, whoa, okay? Sure enough, Jake didn't show. Okay? And like 2.5, 3 weeks later, Jake was traded for Brian Salter to the Washington Redskins, okay? And Brian Salter played in my diabetes golf tournament a couple of years. I said, you know something, Brian? He's a professor at the University of Miami now or something. I said, you know what? That will go down as one of the worst trades ever in the history of the National Football League. He goes, yeah, I know, because I told Shoes I was only playing 1 year. He traded Jake Scott to the Washington Redskins knowing that Brian Salter was only playing 1 year. That year that he traded for him, that was his last year. He didn't play again.
Yeah.
But that's how much he wanted to get rid of Jake, because he thought Jake was a problem, you know, as far as his, you know, him running the show. That's the difference than today, okay? That is the difference right there.
We've talked about this time again, because Joe and I, and Jimmy, we travel on the team charter, and it's a lot different. And I can remember the first time walking on the charter and walking through that card game with smoke, like there was smoke.
Beers and that was.
I'm going. I'm coming. Come from San Jose State, and you're we're barely on an airplane, and all of a sudden chairs are broken down, and there's a card game on either side. Everyone's smoking cigarettes.
The worst part about it was the waitresses already had the seats broken down, and
they knew the road.
And the buckets full of beers and the chairs.
Yeah. Oh my God,
those were
unbelievable.
Unbelievable. I'll tell you what, close team, Stroker.
Yeah.
Always a close group. After weigh-in, 15, 20 guys go to La Sabre in Miami Lakes and have a couple of drinks.
Even going on the road, we'd have 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 guys go to dinner together.
Yeah.
Right? Pick out an Italian restaurant. Pick out the steakhouse.
Right.
I remember coming to your house before going to the charter, playing cards at your house because you had a keg with Heineken there, and we'd have Heinekens and play cards, and then we go right.
Yeah, and frosted mugs.
Yeah, that's right. Exactly. Hey, Don, man, thanks for taking
Stroker,
the time
thank
out,
you, man. Great stuff.
Always a pleasure, my guys. Good to see you guys. Take care,
man.
God bless you.
All right,
the best.
Take care. All right, good stuff by Doc. Good stuff by the Doc. I mean, it's stuff that we can, we can all look for all of us and everybody that's, that's kind of the audience we're talking to, talking about health with these people and giving them some tips of how to stay healthy. And if you feel bad, you got to go to the doctor and get things done. And
no more old school stuff
no.
like I'll be fine. I don't need anything. Yeah, I agree.
And so and then bringing Don in, who's gone through a lot of stuff. I didn't know you got through that much stuff.
Yeah, man.
Hey, I knew he had a valve replacement, and I didn't know about this.
Yeah, no.
Aorta deal.
And Don's doing great now. Yeah. So it's a great finish to the story, but a great ending to this story. But I tell you, Stroker stories.
Oh.
You can listen to his stories forever.
Yeah, I remember. When we had home games, preseason games, we would go to the cafeteria at St. Thomas where we stayed. The dorms were there, practice field was there. We did everything there. So a pregame meal was there, and a pregame meal back then with Coach Shula was when he'd give you like a pregame look. He didn't give you really a pregame speech. He just said, "This is what we got to do. We got to do this and that." And then then you'd break up with your team, your assignment group. You'd find out how many games, how much you were going to play.
Right.
You're going to play about 2 series, this and that. And I would always wait by the door for Don to come out because he did the same thing every time. Because he was behind. First he was behind Greasy and Morrill. He was not the third guy, and then it was David Woodley, and then him. He was the second guy, So he was
always a combination of 3.
But so during the preseason, he was usually getting the guys that weren't going to make the team.
Right.
So I'd always kind of snuggle up to him, and as soon as he'd walk out there, light that cigarette, and the free go, Jesus Christ! You see those misfits I'm lining up with tonight? I got no. Every week it was the same thing, and I got a kick out of it. But
he was the best.
Character.
We'd be in the huddle in the fourth quarter of a preseason game that meant nothing. The last one especially. And poor Stroker's in the game, and he says, "Hey, just run and get open. I'm going to throw it to you no matter what." And he'd look around. Yeah, he was the Don Strock stories. And hey, he got opinion. He'll let you know where you stand with everything. It's great.
It's good stuff. Hey, I want to thank our sponsor, Scales, giving us our shirts here and everything. Baptist Health, all they do for us, Joe. We talked about it with the doc, and all they do for us. And look, if you're looking for a place. It's kind of like a one-stop shop. You go to Baptist Health all over the place. Broward, they're in Davie now. They're down in South Miami, all over the place. And so they've been very good to us, and always like to talk about them.
Well, we thought it was just injuries, but as you and I found out, it's also the cardio part of the business. Baptist is doing it all in Dade and Broward, even into Palm Beach.
New facilities too, man. New and good facilities.
Yeah.
Go to the one by Davie. Go
by 95 in Pine Island is beautiful.
Go to the one in Miami Gardens. You can watch the Dolphins practice while you're getting your hemorrhoids
next to the
checked
training
out.
facility. Exactly.
Like that. All right, that's going to do it for Out to Pasture this week. Stick around. We'll come up with another episode in a couple of weeks. Hope you enjoy this. and stick around, and you can catch us on Spotify, Apple Music, all the podcasts, YouTube, all those platforms. We're there, and if you want to see us, go on YouTube, right?
Wherever you.
If you're tired of looking at us, if you're tired of looking at us, just listen to it on the other ones. Later.